sometimes your slits will not close, and it could be because there's some trash in between the blades, or they just might be out of alignment. One way you can tell is when your illumination housing is on the tower. If you were to lift it up slightly and the jaws close, then it could be that your rod needs to be adjusted. When it's constantly being turned back and forth, sometimes this rod screws one way or the other, and it will affect your rod that affects the blades closing, the slit blades closing. And so if you can lift it up and they close, then it's possible you only need to adjust it by turning this rod one way or the other. If they're not closing, it probably needs to be turned clockwise to make this shorter so that it will fall more when your table comes down. But if it doesn't close, you're may have to take it off and adjust the blades. So you can take it off by taking your screw out from here. Now if it's a hog strike, you don't have to loosen the bearing plate because it'll stay there. But if it's a Topcon, you should probably loosen this plate that has the pressure on the bearing, because otherwise the bearing is going to fall in and fall inside. So, but hog strikes, okay, you don't need to loosen the plate. So you would take that screw out and you can lift up off your tower. You can adjust your chin rest so that you can get power, and it's a good idea to be able to have light going through it while you're trying to adjust it, so that you can tell if you're able to adjust it or not, and if you've adjusted it. So here we go. I've taken it off already, and I've already taken off the 4 screws up here, loosen them. I've got it plugged into my cable. I'm going to turn the power on. So the light is on, and you can look through to see if it's closing or not, closing all the way or not. Might have to lift it up and down to check it. And if it's not closing, then go ahead and take your 4 screws out. Put this to the side. Then you have access to your blades where you can adjust. So first of all, you should try to clean them because it could just be some debris in here. So get some acetone and push down on your rod a little bit to open them, and clean your blades. Use your hurricane blower to blow it off. If they're still not closing, then they probably need to be adjusted. So to determine which side you want to work with, you don't want to do both sides at one time. You only want to work with one side, either this side or this side. Leave one side where it is. You need a constant, something constant. And so by looking at the space on each side of your screw, you can see which one has more room to be able to go towards the center. Look at the spacing. If one is tighter, then maybe that's the one you need to move. So after looking at it, determining this one is really close to the edge, so I'm going to work on this side. I'm going to leave this side constant and make this side match that side. So when you're adjusting these blades, you never want to touch either edge with anything except to clean them with something soft. You don't want to touch it with anything metal, or it will damage the edge and you'll have a defective edge. So you never want to touch it. So something you should do is, once you determine which side you're going to open, pull the side you're not going to open that up with your finger and hold it, and never let that go while you're working on this edge. These screws might be tight. I've already loosened these, so they're not going to be tight for me. They're going to be a little tight. Oops. See how dangerous it is? How easily something metal can touch that edge? Okay. These are moving because I've already taken them off before and cleaned them. But when you take yours off, it's not going to move because it's probably held in place by some type of fingernail polish or glue, so it's going to be in there tight. If you're able to pull the washers out, okay, yours is going to be on there solid. So try to put some acetone around the edges to loosen the glue. There's some acetone. You can put it around the edges. Or you can put it right on the screw holes to try to loosen the glue that's holding it in place. And you can either try with your needle nose pliers, grabbing the edges, and try to twist it to break it free. Just gentle pressure. If it doesn't work, you're going to have to pry it up. So one way to do that, by being very careful, go underneath, but don't get close to that edge. See, I'm continuing to hold it with my thumb, this side with my thumb. I'm never going to let that go until I free this side up. So if I go to the front edge underneath, I can pry up without getting close to that edge. There's a little space in there. You can get your screwdriver and just pry it up. you just want to break it free. And once you've broken it free, then you can get your needle nose pliers and pull it off. Now once you've pulled it off, you can let go of this, because that edge is not going to hit that edge in any way. And when you handle it, just you never want to touch the edge with anything unless you're cleaning it. Once you have the blade off, you need to clean your surfaces of all the glue residue that's on there that was holding them in place. You need to clean the glue residue on your blade. Once you have all that clean, when it's time to put it back on, once again, pull your blade back so that it will never touch. They never touch by accident. Gently put your blade down, your slit edge down. It should move freely because you've cleaned all the glue, all the fingernail polish, so it should move around freely. If you don't, if you weren't to take off the glue, when you tighten it, it would go back in its original place, and you don't want that. Okay, then you can put your washers back in. And you can put your screws back on. Okay, you don't want to tighten them. You can snug them, but then loosen maybe a half a turn or a quarter of a turn, because you're going to need to move them. Okay, push the blade all the way back, and now you can release your other side slowly. Make sure this is back so that they don't touch yet. Okay, see, there's a little space in there. They're not touching yet. Okay, now you can plug your power back in. Open them up to clean the edge one more time. Slowly release, and then take your hand and hold them together, and slowly tighten your. When you're putting them in, when you put this blade on, try to get the blades even, top and bottom. That's going to help the alignment. Hold your blades together, lined up, top edges. Hold them tight. Just slightly tighten, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Each one back and forth. Just a little bit. Release and check and look and see if the blades are closing. If not, you'll have to loosen them again. Try again. Sometimes it'll do it the first time. Sometimes it takes many times. Just slightly tighten, just a little bit, each one, back and forth. If you like it, if it's closing, now test it. Push down on your rod and check it. If you like it, hold them together and tighten them a little bit more. You got them pretty snug. See what happens? They can open back up. So you have to be careful about when you're snugging them. But you have to hold them tight. So you have to do it again. Loosen them. Hold tight. Slight snugging back and forth. Okay. And you've got it. Get your fingernail polish. Put it on the back edge. And then the two front edges. That's going to hold it. If you get too much, you can kind of clean off any extra with acetone. Make sure these edges, this edge, that edge, and that edge, that's going to hold it in place. Now, once you put it back on your tower, anytime you adjust your slit blades, the centering is going to be off. You're going to have to readjust the centering. And that would be, once you put this back on, this little screw right under here, you can adjust the centering. You can try to turn it as it is. If it's too tight, then you need to dig out the little set lock screw is in here. It's got some wax on it. Some have wax, some don't. You can just clean that out so you can get to your screw. Loosen the lock screw just barely, and then you can, while you're looking through your binoculars, you can see, you can adjust the centering so that it opens right in the center of your smallest diaphragm. You want to check it, look underneath, push your rod. Looks like it's closed. Okay. Just be very careful. You can do it.